You're welcome to another episode of Prime Legal Tips. Today I will be talking on employment rights in Nigeria / know your rights. Do you know your rights as an employee in Nigeria? Can your boss fire you without notice? What can you do if your salary isn't paid on time? In this video, I'll break down key employment rights every worker should know. Can your employer fire you without notice? Many people think their boss can fire them on the spot, but the law says otherwise. Unless you're guilty of gross misconduct, your employer must give you proper notice. There are different notices your employer can give to you before you are sacked. Just like I stated in my last video, there are different notices you can actually, a landlord is supposed to give to a tenant before evicting or throwing them out of their properties. So the same thing goes for employment relationship. There are notices that your boss must give you before taking you out of his property. If you're employed for a month, if you're a monthly employee, you're entitled to a 1 month notice. If you're a weekly employee, you're entitled to a 1 week's notice. If you are a daily employee, you are entitled to a 1 day's notice before you are thrown out of any company. You have to ask for these notices because they are your rights. You can't just get fired on the spot. They have to give you notice. And I have stated these notices and you saw them on your screen. So that's your first right as an employee. But there's something you have to note. No notice is needed if an employee commits fraud, theft, or gross misconduct. Or if the contract specifies a different notice period, the contract terms must apply. So if, as an employee, if you commit fraud, theft, or gross misconduct, your boss is excused from issuing those statutory notices that are mandated on him to give to you before giving you a sack letter. You are not entitled to a notice at that point in time. You're not entitled to a notice. And even if your contract specified a period where your employment gets terminated, then by a fruition of time, when it gets to that day, by a fruition of time, your notice or your employment is already terminated. So you don't need a notice in that regard. What can you do if your employer doesn't pay your salaries? That's the second right you have to know about today. Nigerian law requires employers to pay wages on time. If your employer delays or refuses to pay, here is what you can do. Number 1, send a formal demand letter requesting your payment. Report the employer to the Ministry of Labor. Take legal actions to recover unpaid wages. Now, these 3 steps are very important to you as an employee. Most of us in Nigeria, we are used to keeping our mouth shut because of, this power thing we have in Nigeria that if your employer is very, very powerful, you tend to keep quiet, but you don't know that you have your rights. We have your rights. We are used to keeping quiet in Nigeria and allowing people ride over us. So as an employee, if you're not being paid your salary, you're working for it, it is your right to get your salary. What you do is you send a formal letter requesting it. Have it documented. Have something you can show as proof. Then the second step, if you send that formal letter and it doesn't work or your salary is not being paid, you report the employer to the Ministry of Labor. And third, take legal actions and recover your unpaid wages. You can't just jump from, they did not pay my salary yesterday. Okay, I'm jumping straight to institute legal action. Sometimes you will be asked if you took steps to maybe get this payment on your own. Maybe there are a lot of things that can happen. Maybe the company has limited funds. Maybe your boss is out of the country, or maybe your boss is let's say there are so many reasons that can hinder your salary. So first of all, you take steps to make sure that This thing is done purposely. So after that, you report the employee to the Ministry of Labor, then you take legal actions. This is what you can do to recover your unpaid wages. Remember, deducting wages without consent or withholding salaries unfairly is illegal as an employee. You have to have that at the back of your mind. Deducting your wages without your consent or withholding salaries unfairly is illegal. It is your right to be paid your full salary as long as you do your complete duties and carry out your duties in that employment relationship. Third question today: can your boss cut your salary without warning? Your employer cannot just wake up and slash your salary without discussing it with you. It is not acceptable. Any salary reduction must be agreed upon or legally justified. It must be legally justified. Your salary cannot just be slashed. You can get up one morning and notice they were paying you 50,000 before and they're paying you 30,000 naira in Nigeria. You don't accept that. You have to follow due process to get the reason why that happened. You have to. But of course, in Nigeria, you can wake up and see your salary being increased and no one will say anything. We see it as promotion. But you can't deduct it. So when you see something like this, you don't just keep quiet. You have the liberty to write. If nothing has been done about it, no genuine explanation, you write to labor, you report to labor, then you institute legal actions. For the fourth question, are you entitled to leave? Yes, Nigerian employees are entitled to different types of leave, including annual leave, which is a minimum of 6 days per year for those who have worked for at least 12 months. 2, sick leave with a doctor's certificate. 3, maternity leave, at least 12 weeks with at least 50% pay in some cases. And 4, public holidays as declared by the government. So as an employee, you are entitled to these 4 leaves. There's some employment that actually keeps their staff over time and then refuse to grant them any permission for a leave or whatever. And if they actually take some time off, maybe due to sickness or some unforeseen circumstances, their bosses will actually slash their salaries or give them a kind of query or some other. So as an employee in Nigeria, you are entitled to your leave, and it is still on the screen for you to see those leaves that are available for you, and then you work with that. For the fifth question, let's talk about workplace harassment. What can you do? Harassment, whether verbal, physical, or sexual, is illegal. If you face harassment at work, take these steps. These steps are enumerated already on the screen for you to see. Document everything. Dates, times, incidents. Document everything. Possibly record something. Have a proof. Because anyone can just label an accusation on anybody, especially in the world of today, where men think women set men up and women think men are harassing them at any point in time. You have to document something. You have to have an evidence to actually prove that this person is actually harassing me. Number 2, report to the HRU or management. Of course, you cannot go to the management or the HRU without proof. So the first step has to come so that the second step will be successful. And the first and second step will lead you to the third step, which is seek legal action if nothing is done. If you don't document anything and you don't go to the HRU and then you go straight to legal actions, questions will be asked, and you need proof in this kind of if you take legal action with this kind of topic, you need proof. So you need those documentation. You need the fact that you have to prove the fact that, okay, I've reported to the HRU, so they are aware of this and nothing was done. Then I came to court to seek my redress. So you see, 3 steps are important. In fact, 3 steps cannot be done without each other if you want it to be successful. So you have to do that. Finally, knowing your employment rights can protect you from unfair treatment. Knowing your employment rights can protect you from unfair treatment. I love the fact that this Generation Zs are not scared of anything. But do not misquote me. Do not take not being scared to being stubborn. I'm saying respect people, but don't fear people, especially your bosses. Some bosses feel as if they are gods, mini gods, and they can do and undo. So respect them, but know your rights. If you can go back and watch this video again, you would have seen I have enumerated these rights you have. These are the common rights that can be dented by your employers in Nigeria. So if you know these rights and you actually believe in yourself, you can actually see that your boss will be able to take you for a ride at work. Apart from that, apart from all this, make sure you're a good employee. Make sure you do your job diligently, and make sure you try to go for amicable settlement of every issue you have before you take legal actions or escalate it, so that at least you will have the proof that you've tried and it did not work. And for employers listening or watching this video, please, we are all human beings. We know most of you claim you suffered before you got these companies or something, but the generation of you being in that state has passed. This is a new world. You cannot go back to write letters. You cannot go back to using Stone Age or to go back to the Stone Age or writing letters. You now use phones. Since you've upgraded yourself with the age or with the stage at which life is now, so you have to upgrade your thinking to match the consistencies of this very generation. So you can't say, because I suffered, you must suffer. No, go back to using a phone. Or sorry, go back to writing a letter. Go back to riding a bicycle. So you have to upgrade yourself with the particular happenings in this time. So don't just put your mind on the past. Bring it to the future. The world has evolved. AI is everywhere. We have good cars, Lamborghinis, good cars. You can't go back to riding horses, although people still do that for leisure. So as an employee, try to be a good boss. You don't buy respect, you earn it. And for the employers too, you don't buy let's say your boss liking you and giving you maybe bonuses at work. You earn it. So let's all work together and make Nigeria a better place. Thank you very much. See you on the next episode.